What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, MMA's favorite duo may just end up being a trio after all. Darren Till and Khamzat Chimaev, the bromance that's going on there. Khamzat has now reached out to Conor McGregor and said, look, I respect what you did for the game. I'm getting paid more money because of you in large part, and I want to help you. I can help fill in the gaps in your game. Listen, Darren Till and Khamzat Chimaev understand how to keep themselves in the headlines, and there's no better way to do it than to add Conor McGregor to your group.
Yeah, what a band of brothers. The Super Smash Brothers or Smash Brothers are about to join forces with the biggest name in the sport. With Conor McGregor being the biggest draw in the sport, for Khamzat Chimaev to reach that sort of level is very, very difficult, but the way you do it is you align yourself with him. And one way you want to basically do that is realize that if you're not going to get a fight with Conor, then you need to become an ally of Conor. And if you can do that, you can utilize his mega platform and kind of, create some of your own traction and really get bumped up into a superstar role. Now, this is interesting because this is basically Khamzat and Darren, two big guys, 185ers that, spent some time at 170. And I think Khamzat will eventually get the belt at 170, but he's going to be going to 185. So Conor doesn't really have to worry about them as opponents, I don't think, but he could definitely utilize them in a camp, and I think there's some things that they could learn from him, and of course he could learn from more particularly Khamzat Chimaev. But this is a very interesting call out. It's not really a call out, right? It's a call in.
It's a call in. Yeah.
They're calling Conor in, and I don't see this being something that Conor just sticks his nose up at and brushes away. I think that there's actually a lot of positive energy that could come from this.
Oh, Conor is a master at keeping himself in the headlines, and he's a master entertainer. He will not let this opportunity pass without using it to his advantage. So he will respond to this. How he responds is yet to be determined, but I think this can be advantageous to Conor in multiple ways. Khamzat Chimaev, in my opinion, might be the most disciplined fighter on the UFC's roster. This guy always says yes to fights. He always says yes no matter what the weight class is. He's extremely confident in his skills, and he has reason to be. The guy lives at the gym. Quite literally and figuratively, he actually lived at the gym for quite some time there in Sweden. He spars with Alexander Gustafsson. He welcomes people into his camp that have different skill sets than his own. He tries to learn from them. The guy, I'm hearing, trains 5 to 6 times a day. Now, I know strength and conditioning has worked in there. Maybe a run counts, but at least 2 or 3 times a day, he's on the mats physically training to be a better mixed martial artist. And the word that comes to mind with Khamzat is discipline. And sometimes, let's be honest, when we're talking about Conor, we're talking about a lack of discipline because the skill set is there. Clearly, Conor's got tremendous power. Nobody has ever risen to a champ before Conor, and much less that quickly. The skills cannot be argued against. I mean, Conor McGregor is damn near as good as it gets in the division that is as hard as it gets to compete in. And I think that the wrestling may just be the one thing that he needs to bring his skills up on. And I think Khamzat Chimaev might be just the guy to help him out.
Yeah, and he'll never be the wrestler of Khamzat Chimaev or Khabib or Islam. But Islam and Chimaev have a very similar style, and that is Islam versus Conor is a fight that could absolutely happen before he calls it a career. And if you've got some insight coming from Khamzat Chimaev and you've got a bigger frame that basically does the same thing that you get to train an entire camp with, that's something that could definitely benefit you. Now, you could also learn a lot of defense on that aspect because if Khamzat knows what to do to take you down, he also knows how to prevent it, and he knows what's difficult, obstacles for him to deal with as he goes to take these fighters down. I think it's something that's really brilliant. And Conor does have that can't nobody tell me nothing type of mentality. Yeah. And he'll even get on Twitter and get on Instagram and fire off tweets at people that it seem like, I don't care what you say. You can't tell me anything. If you don't come from Straight Blast Gym in Ireland, I don't want to hear it. And that's cool. But at the same time, the owner and the founder of Straight Blast Gym, John Kavanagh, is a very, very real guy. He's one of the few people that I think can get through to Conor better than anybody else. And if he sees Khamzat Chimaev coming over saying, look, we want to work with you. We want to get you where you can be back to getting titles and getting UFC belts around your waist. I think John Kavanaugh would be able to talk some sense into Conor and say, look, you can fire off some tweets or whatever, but let's see if these guys were willing to come to Ireland. Maybe we'll get some good work with them, because if you want to beat Islam Makhachev, if you want to become the UFC champion again, I think it's best if you align with Khamzat Chimaev rather than make an enemy out of him, because who knows? If you sign up to fight him, I don't think the odds are going to sway in your favor. And I think that if you become an ally of his, you're going to learn a whole lot, and you're going to actually benefit from it, not only on the mats and in the X's and O's and in the fight, but because he's one of the most relevant up-and-comers and new fighters right now, that you guys would just be able to go viral and take all the headlines from all the other fighters.
Yeah, it would be like a vacuum. They will suck the headlines out of MMA. If
Darren Till would be right there to just reap all the benefits too.
Oh my God, the three of them together, I mean, that is just headline city. But let's talk about how the tables have turned, right? Because Khamzat Chimaev, once upon a time, boarded a plane to Ireland and ended up getting himself deported, and he was heading straight for Straight Blast Gym to kick Conor's ass. So obviously the times are different now. Things have changed, and Khamzat is becoming a character, and he knows how to continue to build this hype train that is Khamzat Chimaev. But let's talk about also Conor McGregor versus Islam Makhachev as a potential matchup, because I think we have to come to the realization that that matchup could happen, and that's the closest thing we're ever going to see to Conor McGregor fighting Khabib again. Right now on paper, Islam Makhachev wipes the floor with Conor McGregor. How do you close that gap? You close that gap by having an ounce of humility and stepping on the mat with somebody like Khamzat Chimaev and letting him throw your ass around for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and you learn how to defend that. You learn at least how to ward some of it off. You look for striking opportunities in those shots and in those encounters, and you try your best to devise a game plan that can negate what Islam does. And I say an ounce of humility because it really does take that. A man who's worth over $100 million, it takes a lot to have somebody come into his gym and absolutely ragdoll him. And not only that, you pay for the pleasure of that in a lot of instances. And so I think if he wants any chance in the world at defeating Islam Makhachev, and it's still a tough fight for him, the only chance he's really got is to bring somebody like a Khamzat in who does a very similar thing and just get beaten up over and over and over again until you can devise a plan to work against it.
Yeah, and so many people in this world, not just in MMA, but everywhere, every walk of life, they have a fear of failure. And so that will actually paralyze them from doing anything else, because they don't want to fail so bad that they're not willing to try. Conor McGregor is not one of those types of people. He has failed multiple times, and he doesn't really have a fear of it. He's now calling for Kamaru Usman. The odds on that are very swayed in Usman's favor. But it doesn't mean that he's afraid to fight him. You know, when Conor was going up with Jose Aldo was the greatest and only featherweight at that time. By a long shot, he was the greatest. Then he goes up against Eddie Alvarez, who had just taken the belt from RDA. Now we're talking about, a new weight, and he's not afraid to go up there. And yeah, he might fail. There's a good chance that he will. Now he's talking about a third belt. He's talking about 170. Kamaru Usman would probably be the toughest fight he's ever had in his life. And he's not afraid to go fail. So while Conor does seem like the kind of guy that doesn't want to hear anything from anybody that's not his team, I do think that he would be willing to hear from Khamzat and Darren. And if they come to him and they're just willing to work and learn and become allies and kind of form an alliance, I think that you're going to see some great progression in Conor McGregor's career, which is really impressive because he is already in his early mid-30s. So for him to start making some good progress on the ground, the places that he's suffered the most, I think that's absolutely a home run hit. Great call by Chimaev. He knows how to stay in the headlines as well, and I think that everybody between those three would greatly benefit from that.
I think so, for sure. Guys, drop us a comment. Should Darren Till and Khamzat Chimaev make their duo a trio and add Conor McGregor? Guys, if you're new here, we talk about all things MMA and combat sports related. So if that's your thing, we appreciate a subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.